This is a story buried deep in the sands of time, a tale from centuries ago. Far away from the bustling noise of the city, there lay a poor but peaceful village. In that village lived a man named Nasir. By trade, he was a landowner and farmer. Every single morning, before the first light kissed the sky, he would set out for his fields, and when the sun sank behind the horizon, he would return home, dusty, tired, but content. His life was simple, his heart humble, his hands hardened by honest work. What he earned, he ate. What he saved, he gave away to others in need. Among the villagers, he was known as a man of kindness and generosity. Yet, the greatest trial of Nasir's life was not in the fields, but inside the four walls of his own home. His wife, to the world, she appeared loyal, loving, and graceful. To him, she was the image of affection and care. But behind those soft smiles and gentle words lurked something far darker. Nasir, with his pure and trusting heart, was blind to the storm brewing right beside him. Why would he suspect her? She gave him no reason to doubt. Every morning, she served him breakfast on time. At lunch and dinner, she laid before him dishes rich with flavor. And before he left for the fields, she would see him off with a smile warm enough to melt any heart. But under that smile burned a fire of contempt. In her heart, there was neither love nor respect for Nasir. She thought to herself, if only I were married to a wealthy, famous man, how different, how luxurious my life would be. While Nasir toiled in the heat of the fields, she sat at home weaving schemes. Wicked, calculated ways to free herself from this gentle, unsuspecting farmer. Her hypocrisy was flawless. Every word, every glance, every gesture convinced Nasir that she was the best wife any man could have. And Nasir believed it completely. He never let anyone speak a single word against her, but her greed and her twisted desires were steering her down a dark and dangerous road. The woman who was meant to fill her home with love, to build it into a sanctuary of loyalty and warmth, instead began tearing it apart with her own hands. They say a woman can turn her home into paradise if she wills, or transform it into a living hell. One day, as Nasir went to his fields as usual, his wife plotted something strange. She called over a handful of street thugs from the neighborhood and whispered instructions. When my husband is busy working in the fields, steal his donkey. Tie it tightly to a nearby tree where he can see it. The thugs nodded and went off to carry out her plan. By noon, the woman prepared food, as always, breakfast and lunch, and walked toward the fields. Nasir welcomed her with gratitude, but there was something unsettled in his eyes, a shadow on his face. She tilted her head sweetly and asked, "My dear, you seem troubled today. Is everything all right?" Nasir glanced up toward the sky, then back at her and said, "Just look for yourself. My donkey is sitting in a tree. Since morning I've been wondering, how is this possible? Donkeys can't fly." Her eyes widened in feigned shock, but deep inside her mind was laughing at him. "Oh my, that is strange indeed. Come, let's get him down together." After much effort, they freed the poor donkey from its ridiculous perch. As she turned to leave, she casually asked for some money. Nasir, blinded by his affection for her and trusting her without question, emptied his pockets and handed her everything he had. But greed has no end. "This is only 5 dinars, she said flatly. "That's far too little. I need more." "How much do you need?" Nasir asked. 100 dinars, she replied, naming an amount that was huge for a farmer like him. "All right," Nasir said softly. "When I receive payment for the wheat I sold, I'll give it to you." When the wheat money came, Nasir kept his word, placing the full 100 dinars into her hands without hesitation, without question. But she secretly kept half of it aside, hiding it away for a purpose that had nothing to do with the man who trusted her completely. Days passed, weeks slipped by, but her plans only grew darker. Her greed, hungrier. This time, she set her eyes on an even bigger amount. One morning, just as Nasir was preparing to leave for the fields, she suddenly demanded 200 dinars. Nasir froze. 200 dinars was no small sum. "My dear," he said with loving patience, "that's a great deal of money. What will you do with it?" She pulled a veil of false seriousness over her face, her voice trembling with manufactured sympathy. "Sir, what can I say? My sister is gravely ill. I need the money for her medicine." Nasir's heart was soft. Suspicion never crossed his mind. "Very well," he he said. "Prepare lunch for me today, and I will find a way to get the money." Her lips curved into a false smile, a smile of victory. "Of course, sir. Tell me what you'd like me to cook." And so another day began. But Nasir had no idea that the woman he saw as his partner in life was guiding him straight toward betrayal. When she prepared lunch, she secretly took 3 large fish with her. On the way to the fields, she hid them nearby. After serving Nasir his lunch, she slipped away and buried the fish in the field soil. The farmer offered a few words of praise, prayed, and returned to work. As he dug, his hoe struck something wet and slippery. A fish, then another, then a third. His eyes widened. "My dear, quickly, come! There are fish coming out of the field." The wife ran over, her performance flawless. "Oh, sir, this must be your miracle. How could this be? Subhanallah." Then, as if it were an afterthought, she added, "I'll take these fish and cook them for dinner. By the way, do you remember the 200 dinars I asked for this morning?" The simple-hearted farmer sold even one of his donkeys and scraped together the 200 dinars with great difficulty. He placed the money into her hands, and she returned home with a smile that hid a dagger. That evening, when Nasir returned home, the air felt heavy. His wife sat in silence, her face a mask of sadness and coldness. He called to her. She barely responded. "My dear, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" "Nothing," she said sharply. "I'm just tired. There's fish over there. Eat. I need to rest." Nasir thought perhaps her sister's illness had weighed on her mind. He ate in silence and went to bed. The next morning, she didn't even ask about breakfast. He cooked for himself and went to the fields. At noon, no lunch arrived. He worked hungry and thirsty. Days passed. Weeks. Her coldness didn't change. In fact, it grew colder. Finally, Nasir gathered courage, sat beside her, and asked gently, "My dear, what has happened? You've been so different lately. Tell me the truth. What is wrong?" She sighed, and the poison she had hidden in her heart for so long finally spilled out. "If you really want my happiness," she said coldly, "then divorce me." The words struck like a sword. "What are you saying? Are you in your senses?" She turned her face away. Silence. Day after day, she repeated the same demand. It became clear. This was no sudden emotion. It was a plan. Nasir endured the insults, endured the coldness, but then the fights began. She would say, "Buy me a gold necklace," or sneer, "I am beautiful enough to be with a respectable man. With a poor farmer like you, my fate is ruined." The words cut deep. Finally, in anger, Nasir thought, "Maybe if I strike her, she'll come to her senses." But the moment he raised his hand, she screamed, "My husband is beating me! He's gone mad!" Neighbors rushed in. Nasir tried to explain, but her cries melted every heart. They turned on him. "Shame on you! How can you treat a woman like this?" For an honorable man, to hear his own wife humiliate him before other men was unbearable. The matter reached the judge. Both were summoned. The judge asked, "What is the matter?" Nasir spoke quietly, explaining everything. Then it was her turn. With tears in her eyes, she said, "Judge, this man threatens to kill me. Twice, thrice he has come at me with a knife. My life is in danger. Please free me from him." The judge was troubled. Perhaps the farmer truly was cruel. But Nasir took a deep breath and said, "Judge, I swear by God, I love this woman. But if she no longer wishes to live with me and is determined to shame me, I will divorce her, on one condition. I have given her much money. Once 100 dinars, and 2 days ago 200 dinars. I am poor. Let her return the money so I can remarry, and I will divorce her." She laughed scornfully. "See, Judge, he's mad. How could a poor farmer like him have such money? If he had really given me 200 dinars, would I be asking for divorce?" The judge asked gently, "When did you give her those 200 dinars?" Nasir said, "Do you remember the day the donkey climbed the tree?" "That's when." The wife burst into laughter. "Judge, have you ever heard of a donkey climbing a tree? This man is insane." "And the other time?" asked the judge. "When fish came out of the field?" Nasir said simply. She turned to the judge. Have you ever seen fish coming out of a field? Now tell me, who is mad, me or him? The room seemed to lean in her favor. The judge said, I will decide in 2 days. 2 days later, he ordered the divorce. God is with the truthful, he said. A liar can never escape his grasp. Nasir wept quietly, fell in prostration, and gave the divorce without a word. The woman wore the colors of triumph. Months later, she married the thug she had loved all along. Nasir watched in silence, thinking, the man I wouldn't let sit in my home, she now calls her husband. Days into the marriage, the thug began beating her. He was worthless, jobless, dishonorable. The money she brought from Nasir ran out. He demanded more. When she had nothing left, he divorced her too. Nasir, meanwhile, married a righteous, gentle woman. God blessed him with children, respect, and peace. The woman who once thought herself beautiful and untouchable now longed for even the smallest job near his home. But time had passed. The truth was out. No one trusted her. No one would marry her. She lived on scraps of charity. She had destroyed her own kingdom, and now there was no one to blame. Whenever she remembered Nasir's kindness and honesty, she wept. But time never walks backwards. Friends, this story carries 1,000 lessons. Whether husband or wife, be patient and grateful for your destiny. The life, the partner, the conditions God has given you are not without reason. If your spouse is not beautiful or perfect in manners, remember, every human has strengths and flaws. One may have truth, but no beauty. Another, beauty, but no loyalty. Another, wealth, but no peace. This world is temporary. We are all born with flaws. We must learn to endure them. Wealth, fame, beauty, these are passing illusions. True success lies in changing yourself. If your partner gives you respect and stands by your side, thank God and live with joy.